Court's ruling on health care. By a 6-3 majority, the justices ruled health insurance subsidies can be paid out across the nation, even in states that did not set up their own health exchanges. Texas is one of those states. This is the second time the High Court has issued a ruling that effectively keeps Obamacare right in place. So does this ruling mean the Obamacare fight is finally over, or is it just beginning? That's our topic this half hour, and we want to hear from you on Facebook and Twitter, so make sure you post your messages with the hashtag Fox26for Life so that we can read them on the air. Joining us live in the newsroom is Fox 26 senior legal analyst Chris Tritico, Fox 26 news analyst Mustafa Tamiz, and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. So we're still talking about Obamacare, huh?
I'm afraid we're going to be talking about it for a long time. You know, with a presidential election coming up next year, the Republicans are still going to be debating whether or not Obamacare should stay in place. But let's talk about what it's going to take for just a second to undo Obamacare at this point. The courts are not going to intervene now, and so the only way to do it is for the Republicans to get 60 votes in the Senate in the next election, so that they can then override a presidential veto should Hillary Clinton win the White House. If a Republican wins the White House, they still need 60 votes in the Senate to get it through, to get it passed in the Senate. So the Obamacare fight really shifts to the United States Senate and the United States senatorial election next term. And I doubt very seriously the Republicans can get 60 votes in the next election, but it'll all be based, in part at least, based on Obamacare. Judge Roberts, Chief Justice John Roberts, who twice now has voted to uphold Obamacare, said in his opinion, Congress passed the Affordable Care Act to improve health insurance markets, not destroy them. Roberts wrote in his majority opinion, if at all possible, we must interpret the act in a way that is consistent with the former and avoids the latter. This is the second time, Mustafa Tamiz, that John Roberts has saved Obamacare. Justice Scalia skewered him in his dissenting opinion.
Well, the opinion was actually, looked at this process and said, what are you all talking about? Because it's very clear the intent of the law. 50 times we tried to repeal it in the United States Congress and the House, two litigations that went all the way up to the Supreme Court. It's time to accept reality that Obamacare is here to stay. And the alternative is, in 2017, let's say the Republicans win the House, they win the Senate, they win the presidency. Doomsday. They get everything. They get 2/3, right? In 2017, 20 million Americans will have health care. What will they do? Will they take away health care from 20 million people? It's impossible at this time. They have to stop feeding this rhetoric to their base because it's making it difficult for them to govern.
Many Republicans, moderate Republicans, very quietly were saying thank you to John Roberts for taking this issue off the table. They don't have to talk about it anymore because they really didn't want to undo something that had given insurance to this many people.
I think the problem is, and I think what people like him don't understand, is when we talk about Obamacare, we do make sure that people know it's very much flawed. Even the president has said there are flaws with this law. So first of all, instead of saying, okay, all Republicans do not want other people to have insurance, that's incorrect. But we are saying that Obamacare imposes taxes that we did not want. We are saying that Obamacare brings us mandates that we did not want. You have a lot of healthcare professionals who are saying Obamacare has brought them costs that they did not want. So when we're looking at the flaws of Obamacare, we're also creating a nation of takers. With Obamacare, we now have half of our households who are going to get subsidies or some type of check from the government. So yes, we are saying that Obamacare is flawed. That does not mean that we don't want people to be insured.
But the Republicans also don't have a counter law to put in place either.
Actually, that's not true. My Congressman Pete Olson, he has proposed quite a few amendments and quite a few other health care policies that we could look at. Senator Ted Cruz has proposed things, so that's not true. Republicans have proposed other alternatives.
You're shaking your head.
The math doesn't add up. Look, if you're going to cover people and reduce costs, right, you have to cover everybody. Because if anybody's not covered, then that person ends up hitting the emergency room. So you do have to have subsidies in order to do that. And you do have to mandate it, just like we mandate auto insurance. Imagine if auto insurance was, an item that you could take if you want, and you didn't if you don't want. We all know what happens when you get in a car accident with somebody who doesn't have auto insurance. You end up paying the cost.
All right, let me go to Dominique. She's monitoring our social media.
Yep, Tony McElroy on Twitter says, repeal Obamacare, extreme government overreach. And also Arnetta Murray says, I'm just glad Obamacare is in place. What else was in place prior?
Well, there wasn't anything in place prior, and that was the argument for almost 100 years about how do we deal with people who can't get health care in the United States. You know, the government, at least 3 years ago, I think 3 years ago, issued a new round of, golly, I can't talk, Medicare expansion. Thank you, Medicaid expansion and Medicare expansion. Texas is one of the states that hasn't accepted that.
Yeah, the federal government basically put together a package that Texas would get $100 billion in the next 10 years to cover 1 million people that fall within the gap, that they're not able to get any kind of an insurance. The reason why that's really important for people to understand, if we want to bring down our premium costs in Texas, if we don't want to pay for the people that don't have health insurance, we have to take this Medicaid expansion. And as long as politically we say we don't want to take Medicaid expansion because we don't want to stand with Obama, the rest of us have to pay higher premiums.
He's correct. The numbers do not add up, and let me tell you why the numbers do not add up in Obamacare. Because if we don't have the healthy population, if we don't have the young people buying into this, those are the ones who have to pay for the others who are getting into Obamacare. And if we don't have those numbers coming in, which a lot of them are saying, I'm passing on Obamacare because I'll just pay the $95 or whatever the penalty is, we're going to see a huge flaw, and we're not getting the true numbers yet because it's such a new law. But we're going to see a huge flaw in this because those people are not buying into Obamacare in the numbers that we need them to buy into to make it successful.
That penalty goes up every year, and as it goes up, you'll see people getting forced in.
Unless it's significant, the people that we need to get into it in large numbers are not going to buy into it.
All right, so the answer to the question, Domily, is no, the debate is not over.